Okay, so today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I want to talk to you about how I got my first photography clients because it wasn't anything like I thought it would be. And instead of just talking about the stock standard, here's the 10 best ways to get your first clients, I thought that I would share my experience because I'm a new photographer too, and I feel like I fit in between not quite starting out, but not quite a professional. So if that's where you're sitting at the moment, then I'd love to invite you along for coffee today and we'll have a chat about my experience and if it might be helpful for you. Okay, so that was enough of me stepping out of my comfort zone, recording out in public, sort of, even though there weren't many people around. But I thought we'd carry on this conversation on my couch for a change. So welcome back, and if this is the first time that YouTube's introducing us, my name's Tracy from Red and the Wolf Photography, and that is the entirety of the official part of the episode today. The rest of it is just going to be coffee and chat, or in my case I have an orange juice, but you can grab a coffee and we'll have a bit of a chat. While I could rattle off the stock standard ways that you should be getting clients, I thought that instead of doing that today, I would take you behind the scenes of my experiences because I really love it when I watch other creators go behind the scenes, and so I thought I'd try that today. And truthfully, when I'm watching other YouTubers that are talking about how to get more clients, it often feels like there's a giant chasm between me and them. As in, either they're 20 years old and they don't have any responsibilities and they're doing really well for themselves, which is awesome, but not my life, or they are my age, but they've been doing this for 20 years. So I haven't really found a lot of creators that are kind of my age that are still in the starting phase like I am in this second life career, as it were, but that kind of puts me in a different genre than most of the other YouTubers out there at the moment. So I wanted to do this video today because I'm not a complete newbie, but I'm also not booked solid, and I thought that there's probably going to be other people out there that are in that in-between zone, and I just kind of wanted to give you a report from that in-between zone. Anyway, so my first clients didn't come from ads or Instagram. They didn't even come from my website. Although my website was really useful, when people did come to me, I could funnel them back through my website so they could see other work and that kind of thing. But none of my clients I've gotten so far have been from traditional ways of trying to get clients. So none of my clients have come from anything I've been actively doing to get clients. And in fact, if you've heard my other videos, I wasn't even trying to get wedding clients. And now I've done 3 weddings and I think I've got 4 booked coming up. So my very first client work was for a friend of ours that owned a cafe, and I don't remember if I asked her or if she asked me or if my mum organised it, but I ended up going around for about an hour and just taking photos of the cafe, and she made up a couple of little plates with things on it for me to photograph, which was really cool. And then I got paid in chocolate cake and whipped cream, and it was fabulous, and it was totally worth it, to be quite honest, because it was also 10 minutes of peace and quiet and I didn't even have to share it, which for anybody that has kids, you'll get that, you'll understand that. I did do Christmas mini shoots one year as well, so that's meant to be short sessions that you do with kids or with families for mini sessions, but I was aiming it specifically at kids, and it was meant to be about 20 minutes long and they would get like 5 or 6 images. And it turned out that most of my sessions were between about half an hour to an hour, and I was giving most of my galleries between 30 and 50 images. So the math on that isn't very good. $25 for what was about 6 hours work for me was pretty crazy. Now my editing's got a little bit faster since then, but nonetheless $25 even for 4 hours work is still too much. But one thing I did learn was that I actually really enjoyed doing it. So it is something that I have tried to do again. In fact, I tried to do that recently. I tried to do some wildling mini shoots because I have these super cool wolf hats. I'll put a photo up or something. So I put up some ads on Facebook and I shared it, and I had heaps of my friends share it, which was super awesome. And I even put it up as a competition on the local Facebook page, and I didn't get anything, not crickets. And that's what I was meaning by even the efforts that I have done so far, I still haven't got any clients from it. I did, however, get an amazing family that won the competition. It wasn't really a competition, it was more like nominate somebody that deserves this. Anyway, they were an amazing family. We had a blast and they loved the photos, and the best part is that I got the most wonderful testimonial from them, which can now go up on my website. So it wasn't a complete waste of time, but I think when you're starting out and you're kind of hoping that you're going to get paid clients, things like this can really knock you down. But regardless of whether or not somebody is a paid client, just having somebody report back and give you a testimonial can be just as important, because building up those testimonials and building up your portfolio of things that not only you can put on your website, but that you could also share on social media, for example, to get your name out there even more. Even though you're not getting money back from that, even that can be a really valuable experience. But we do want to make money at some point in time. So yeah. Now I also need to say here that I took my camera everywhere. Like when I first got my camera, it wasn't even my camera, it was the boys' camera, because they were doing acting auditions. I stole the camera and I basically took it everywhere I went, and then I upgraded and I did get my own camera, and then I've upgraded again to the 5D, which I love, which is basically my baby. But I took my camera everywhere. I took it to daycare and I would just photograph my own child and a couple of other kids that I knew that the parents would be fine with it. I didn't put them up on social media, but I did just use it as a practice run. And then I would walk around town with my camera, just shooting my own kids and things like that. And then I'd share it on my Facebook. Not even a Facebook page. This was just my own personal Facebook of like, hey, look, here's my kids, and you know, the normal things that you do on Facebook. So a lot of my friends and family saw my photography and they were seeing that I was getting better slowly by slowly, and it got to the point where people were like, Trace, you actually need to start charging for your work. So that was really interesting. It kind of came about organically, even though I didn't really believe them. I think that that's really important to note as well, is that while it's really nice to have people say, you should be paid for this, just because you should be paid for something doesn't mean that you A, have the confidence to be paid for something, or B, know how much you should even charge for something, or C, even have that market available to you where you might be living. Like, we live in a small town, so for instance, I want to do some branding shoots, but in a small town, most of my photography clients probably aren't even going to come from being local, but that doesn't mean that I can't ask the locals to basically help me create a portfolio. So, but we'll get to that. Oh, thank you, helping me with my little set with the, anybody want a tarantula? He's very cute. What's his name? Did we name him? No. This is Ralph the Spider. If you have a better name for him, leave it in the comments. But anyway, back to it. So while I was building up my courage and starting to share some of the photos, I did start a private Instagram page that I think I named Tracy's Photos or something like that, and I started putting them up there. And it wasn't something that I was sharing with family. Well, I was sharing some things with family and friends, but everything else I'd put up on my Instagram page. It's still there. Like, if you want to go right down the bottom, there's still stuff there from when I started. And eventually I started a Facebook page for the same reason, because I did have family and friends on Facebook. And so I would kind of go, look, if anybody wants to see my photography, you can like join my page or like my page and things. And what is really neat is that like the first 50 people that followed me were friends and families. So if you're in that space right now where you're just getting started and most of the people on your Facebook page or your Instagram are friends and family, that can still be a really great thing. And I say all of this because that's how I've gotten all of my paying clients so far. Like my very first wedding, which I did about 4 years ago now, I think. My very first wedding, I was at daycare, and one of the daycare teachers said to me, hey Trace. I was like, yes. She's like, you know how you're a photographer? And I was like, no. My first reaction was no. I could see where she's going with this. She's like, they're really lovely people and they don't have high expectations. And I was like, how low? How low expectations are we talking? Because a wedding is a huge thing to screw up. And I didn't want to do weddings, not because I didn't love them, but because I just did not. The idea of ruining somebody's wedding day just terrified me. Anyway, so I ended up doing it, It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. There are still some photos that I'm kind of proud of from that particular shoot, and it did give me the confidence that I could do it. Was it great? No, it wasn't fabulous. It's enough that they can remember their day, and it's got some neat photos of their eldest daughter and their friends and family and things, but I also struggled with the fact that I looked up to some really amazing wedding photographers. Like, I am definitely the kind of person that sees amazing art and I'm like, wow, that is incredibly beautiful. How do I replicate that? So when I don't replicate it, it kind of feels to me like I'm failing. But what I have realized is that I can learn all of the theory in the world because I have watched a lot of courses. I have watched and read a lot of YouTubes, courses on Skillshare, things like that. Pardon? And my little miss just pointed out that it's better if you don't copy other people because then you're being creative. Which is absolutely true. She's 100% right, and it wasn't until I started doing... What? Okay. And number 2 says not to mention that you can pick up their bad habits if you try and copy them too much. So, just some extra bits of wisdom from the children. Where was I? But as someone that has spent so much time doing research and not stepped out of my comfort zone, being kind of, I'm not going to say forced, but encouraged, pulled out of my comfort zone for my first couple of weddings, it was really, really necessary. And it really made me realize that the things that I want to do are on the other side of me trying them, not just watching the theory about them. So if you're the kind of person that is like, I think they call them a lurker, like you lurk in the comments and you just watch everything but you don't actually take part in it, that was me. I wanted to take in all the information because if I took in all the information, then maybe I'd just be brilliant the first time. But no, that's not how it works. So go out and just do whatever you can. And if somebody invites you to do something, just take up the opportunity. Like, let them know where you're at with your skill level and with your equipment level and things like that. But also, don't be afraid to do it. The first wedding I did, I had my 80D and we were in a really small room. So the 80D, the Canon 80D, is a crop sensor, and while I did have an 18 to 55, because it had an f4, we were in a really small room. The room was a bit dark, so I had to put my 50mm on, that's a 1.8, just so I could get enough light into it. So don't be afraid, even with your equipment, as long as people know where you're at, then it'll be fine. My second wedding came from a girlfriend of mine that I went to high school with, and she said, my daughter's getting married, can you photograph it? And I was like, sweet. And that was pretty much the entire conversation until it got closer to the wedding, and she was like, can you still photograph it? I'm like, yeah, of course. So that was how I got the second one. And my third wedding was for the daughter of one of my mum's friends. So her and I caught up and I showed her some of my work and she hired me. So that was fantastic. And wedding number 4 will be coming up in about a month and a half, which is a friend of mine that we've been friends literally our entire lives. We've known each other since forever. And then the 3 weddings that I have booked for next year, one came from me talking to my local barista, and I would chat to her while she was making coffee for me, and we'd just talk about, you know, what was happening in the day, and I'd tell her about, you know, oh, well, I'm editing today or I'm doing this. And then one day she said to me, my brother's getting married, can I grab your details? And I was like, sure, cool. So that's how I got one of them. The second couple is extended family. And also, funnily enough, the bride is a friend of one of my nieces. So that's going to be quite fun. That's coming up in February or March next year. And the third one was a little bit more roundabout. There was a local Facebook page, and they put up on the Facebook page, hey, we're new to town. Are there any wedding photographers that you'd recommend locally? And then another friend of mine posted up and said, oh, you should contact Tracy. So they went to my website and then they contacted me after they'd seen my website. So thus far, all of my paying clients have been word of mouth. So that's my experience up till now, and I've only shot a handful of weddings, and I've only got another handful of weddings booked, which is awesome, but it's by no means any kind of decent income. And my very first wedding, I only charged $50 for. Basically, I was so afraid that I only charged just enough, basically to cover like fuel and a snack. So I have put my prices up a bit since then. I was going to talk about it in this video. It ended up making the video ginormous. So what I've done is I've taken that out and I'm going to do that next week. So if you're interested in knowing the prices that I've put on and why I've chosen them, especially as a, I don't know whether to call myself a beginner photographer or a mid-level photographer. I think probably somewhere in between there, because I'm not quite professional, but I've still got clients. If you're interested in hearing about how I've been pricing my work and the pricing structure I'm going to be putting around my work moving forward, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because then you'll know next week when it goes up. Because the truth is, there's actually a lot of factors to take into consideration. But needless to say, I'm still not earning any kind of income that really makes it blip. And what I've realized recently, and this is probably really obvious, is that I actually do need to put in more effort into getting more clients, not just resting on my laurels and running on word of mouth, which I've kind of done thus far, because I've really struggled within myself to feel confident enough to put any value on the work that I'm providing. One of the weddings that I did recently, I charged them a low price, and my friend came back to me and said, "This is absolutely ridiculous. We're actually going to pay you double what you invoiced us, because that's an absolutely ridiculous number." And that kind of gave me a little bit more confidence as well, that people did see value in what I had created. And as silly as it sounds, I think that that's one of the biggest blocks that you can have as a new photographer, is actually going, I value myself and my work, and other people value my work. Well, I definitely think that there is a level of imposter syndrome, and I'm trying to get over that myself. I did actually make a video about that, so I'll link that. I don't know which side it's meant to go on, so up here somewhere, I'll link that up in case you're interested. But this year has really made me start to examine where my time goes. One of the big things that I've recognized, and this might sound really, really silly, is that my YouTube videos anchor me in a week. And so maybe you've got something that anchors you, and it's a want. It's not even a need. And that's the thing is, well, it takes me 10 hours to make one of these videos. By the time that I script it and record it and edit it and upload it, that's 10 to 15 hours, which is quite a big chunk of my week. And when you're a parent, and especially a homeschooling parent, I think, and you're running a household and everything else that needs to happen, that is a huge chunk of time to take for yourself for something that you want to do. But I realized that when I start to miss my weekly uploads, the rest of my week kind of falls apart. Whereas when I'm making a YouTube, I become much more protective of my time, because I know that to get the time in that I need to be working way more efficiently on everything else. So I started asking myself the question, okay, well, if I have 10 hours to make a YouTube video, and that's something that I do for myself, if I only had another 5 hours in a week to put towards building my business, what would I put into building that business? And now this might actually look different for everybody. For me, this looks like approaching local businesses, because I have already put together a free offer that I want to give out to about half a dozen businesses locally for a small branding shoot. And basically I want to use that to build my portfolio so that I can attract the exact clients that I want at the price that I want. So I need to make sure that I can execute on it, so that when it comes to paying clients, that I'm on top of it. And also I'm kind of trying to, unlike the wedding market where I get one wedding here and one wedding there and one wedding like in a year kind of thing, I know that with business, if I can knock those off in like a month or two, so I might do half a dozen shoots for half a dozen businesses in about 2 months, for example, I'm gonna have a really specific curated portfolio that I'm ready to go and push out to other businesses. Basically, my idea is that instead of waiting for businesses to pay me, I'm just gonna go out and offer my services for free, because I'm more interested in getting my portfolio together than I am in specifically getting paid immediately. While that would be nice, don't get me wrong, it would be very nice, I'm trying to be as strategic about this as I can be. So I'm taking a loss here to hopefully make it up here. So getting back to it, if I only had 5 hours, what would I do with that? Because I'm not 20 anymore. My back hurts when I just get out of bed because I'm over 40 and I don't have a lot of time because of the kids. So if you're in the same situation, it might help to really sit down and go, right, if I only had 5 hours, how would I do that every single week to try and grow my business? But I can guarantee you one thing, 99% of the time, social media is not the way. So many people put so much time into social media and they may have a really large following, but if you're looking for local business and the majority of your Instagram followers are from overseas, then yeah, you might have 5,000 people following you on Instagram, but that's not translating to business. So just be really specific about where you put your time. I think that a small amount of social media is good, especially if it's targeted locally, or just basically to keep up a presence so that if anybody does come to your social media that you are there. So my plan for the rest of the year is to raise my rates, which I have already done. As I said, I will be putting that in next week's video, how I came to those numbers. But in essence, I looked at minimum wage and went, this is ridiculous. I'm not even making minimum wage when I'm working. So I'll put those numbers in next week's video. I'm also updating my website, so I make sure that I have a page that is specific to weddings at the moment. When I get my branding stuff done, I will have a page that is specific to business and branding as well. I'm also working on like my welcome pack for my wedding clients and my contracts for my wedding clients. I did a video about contracts last week, so once again, I'll put the link up, which then translates to less work for me because everything's done up front and it's a lot smoother to work through. So I'm trying to work smarter, not harder. I'm also going to be doing more intentional marketing, which is what I was just talking about approaching local businesses so I can build my branding page to then attract my ideal clients. And I'm also trying to start an Etsy store because I make lots of templates for things and lists and stuff like that. And I figure if I'm making them, I may as well put them up on Etsy and try and sell them. I would really love to do some print on demand. So that's part of where I'm going as well this year. And one of the biggest things that I'm doing this year is I'm actually saying no to a lot of stuff. I have started laying out bones in my week of, if I want to accomplish this in a month, then I need to do this, 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 and this each week to make sure that I'm ticking that off by the month. And what's really cool is if you go into ChatGPT and you basically verbal diarrhea to it about every single thing that you need to do, and you're like, this month I want to accomplish bleh, or this year I want to accomplish whatever, then it can actually sit there and reverse engineer it and go, okay, well, if you want to do this, then here's your 4-week layout. So that's really useful as well. So then I can see the bones of my week, and instead of just having a massive to-do list, because I always have a massive to-do list, I'm a list maker, it really helps me be uber specific about the things that have to get done, that I don't just put them off till next week and go, oh, it's fine, I'll do this next week, or I'll contact this client next week, or whatever. So it's really making me stay way more accountable. But the funny thing is, because I'm doing that, I'm also creating more time with my family, because once I've completed everything on that list, I'm like, okay, well, that's me done. Yeah, there's a few little things like I've got to get groceries or, you know, make dinners or whatever. But the majority of my list is within those bones. And that just makes things so much easier, because I get to the end of the week and I feel like I've actually accomplished something, even if it's just putting out a YouTube video. At the end of the day, it's easy to get overwhelmed when you're looking at other people's businesses that look successful. And especially if you're an introvert that doesn't really like to put your work out there, or you're a perfectionist. I had to get over my idea of perfection. Everything has to be perfect before I release it, and just let it be seen, because the perfect stuff, or the really, really good stuff, comes at the other end of doing it, not at the beginning. Like I said, I'm a kind of person that will sit and learn and learn and learn and learn and never quite take the step, because I'm never sure if I'm going to get something perfect. So take those steps, take those opportunities, take any opportunities that you can get, and then eventually you'll be at the other end of it. And while yes, maybe it's something that you've taken on later in life, don't be afraid to share it. And you don't even have to start by saying, I'm going to do this professionally. You can just put stuff out on Facebook and say, oh my gosh, I have this new toy and I absolutely love it. And eventually people around you will start saying, hey, your photography is really good and you should charge for that. Or I know somebody that might need your services. So that's pretty much my story. So to get back to the technical elements of this, if you could like and subscribe and leave a comment, that would be amazing, because it just lets YouTube know that they could maybe pass this video on to a few more people that might enjoy it. And I will see you guys in the next video, which will be pricing. I'll see you guys then. Bye.